Right. Well, I missed them completely when they were actually most active in the late 70s, early 80s, because I was too young. You know, I mean, Robert Rental came to Bristol with the normal in 79, but I was 10 years old, so it was beyond me. You know, I'd only really got interested in the backstory of the post-punk era in sort of the late 80s when I was a bit older. And the first time I heard about Robert Rental was in an insert in a Mute record. I think it was around the time of their 10th anniversary. You got this little A4 insert they'd put in the sleeves of the records, and it was like a potted history of Mute records and a discography. And I just remember reading the first paragraph or so. It was mentioned this Robert Rental character and how he made a couple of records and then disappeared. And instantly it was like a kind of mystery, you know, a kind of an intrigue. A bit in the same way as someone like Syd Barrett, you know, there was always that intrigue. Why did he stop, you know, and, you know. So that got me curious. But it was quite a while later before I actually found the music. And as far as Thomas Leer is concerned, the first time I heard of Thomas was on this tape, High Voltage, NME number 28, which was something you sent off for it. You sent off the coupon on a £5 check, I think, and you got this. And it includes Thomas's track, Letter from America, which is one of his most catchy pop tunes of the era. And I thought it was, yeah, it was great. I learned a lot from this tape. So much good stuff. The Cabaret Voltaire on there, Suicide, you know. Great tape. Look out for it. But yeah, so that's how I first initially found them. Would have been in the late 80s, after their, you know, their great periods were long gone. So, well, as you can see, we're in my house, and it's just a tip, really. It's DIY, it's home recording, and that's always been a big appeal to me. And Thomas and Robert, and of course Daniel Miller with the normal, and to a certain extent people like Throbbing Gristle and Cabaret Voltaire as well. They all started in lofts. And I just always, it's kind of a romantic thing, I suppose, with me. I just love the idea of young men, you know, tucked away in their little home studios, you know, making the best with the technology that's available. You know, it's why I don't use apps and laptops so much. You know, I'm still kind of inclined to that pre-digital thing of, you know, 4-track tape recorders, and, you know, and this is a replica of the MS-20, which was quite a, if you had a bit of money in the late 70s, you might have had one, I think, you know, but a lot of people had the Wasps and the Korgs, you know, and effects pedals, you know, which I'm sure Thomas and Robert would have used a lot for effects, you know. So yeah, I consider myself to be part of that legacy, you know, of people who are still plodding away with hardware, you know. But they were the initial inspiration, definitely, you know. And, you know, all that period, Cabaret Voltaire and TG and SPK and all those kind of groups who were doing really rough, raw, lo-fi music, you know, it just sounds so much more exciting to me than stuff that's been perfectly manicured on a software system or in a big studio, whatever, you know. And I think it's interesting with Robert. I think he worked better in that environment because it's a good single, the one he did on Mute, but there's a certain clarity about it because it was done in a professional studio. And I think it kind of, when you take Robert out of that lo-fi world and you put him in a sort of like in the bright lights of a studio, something's lost. You know, it would probably be the same with me. If you put me in a big studio, I probably wouldn't, you know, I'd lose a bit of what I am, you know. So yeah, it's all locked in with there, you know, the whole idea of working in your own environment, you know, rather than in a more commercial world. So yeah, I look to them always as an inspiration. You know, anytime I think, oh, I need to get a better tape recorder, no, I don't. It was fine for them, and it's going to be fine for me. Every time you see, I mean, there's so much of it now, but every time you see some young guy with a few little electronic gadgets making really interesting, totally, you know, personal music with electronics, you know, it started with those guys, you know. They were the first to get access to the cheaper technology. I suppose they were rightly placed at the time, but you know, the fact is, they started it. Underground electronic music made by young people, you know, in the post-punk era. It was like there was kind of this group light bulb went off with Thomas and Robert and Daniel and the Cabs. You know, it's like, and the Human League as well, of course, was the future around the same time. The Sheffield scene, you know, all those people together contributed towards everything that's come since. I guess if they hadn't done it, so other people, but the fact is they did. They were the ones. We've got the documentary evidence here, you know. So, yeah, I'm the sort of person, I think, if you're really into something, you need to go back and see where it all came from. And you can't miss these guys, seriously. You know, very important.
Yeah, on one of your recent albums, you named one of the tracks Robert Rental.
Yeah.
I suppose that...
I guess that's why I'm here.
It probably is.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a bit about?
Well, I've got previous for naming tracks after people I admire, you know. So I suppose it was only a matter of time before it happened. I don't know, with that particular piece of music, it was, I didn't have him in mind. I never do have anything in mind. When I start recording a track, I'm just kind of playing around and, you know, until something starts to happen. And with that one, it started with a loop on a... I made a loop on, I think on this. This is like a delay pedal that you can make a loop with. And I started with this dun 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 dun. I just sort of played it in and there was the loop. And then I went away and made a cup of tea and I came back and it was still running round and I said, that's a good loop. So I recorded it and then I developed the rest of the track. And as I was going, I kind of got this feeling like it was saying something about Robert. I don't know what. You know, it's not obvious. And it was when I started layering sort of drones of noise on top. And it was kind of starting to sound a bit like the second half of Paralysis, when I'm thinking, yeah, this is starting to turn into a Robert Rental tribute track in a non-obvious way, I think. And I thought, what shall I call it? Shall I give it a clever name? And then, no, I'm just going to call it Robert Rental. Statement. Done, you know. And if, you know, one person buys my record and says, what's that, and Googles Robert Rental and finds it, then it was worth it, you know.